Who's laughing now? Definitely not me, because this is some serious subject matter. Joker, movie review. I'm giving you my pros, cons, trigger warnings, and my twisted final grade. Hey Twisted people, it's your Twisted Girl here, and you probably figured this was coming because everyone and their mother is like talking about this particular controversial, quote unquote, movie that is Joker 2019, about the villainous, infamous DC Comics villain Joker. Yes, that movie. Yeah. So, technically Joker is a killer clown, so that's totally within my sphere of this channel of being able to review it. So I'm going to review it. And I'm going to give my pros, cons, trigger warnings, and my twisted final grade, kind of talking about my overall thoughts when it comes to the film itself. But I do have a newly published article that goes a bit more in depth with some of the societal themes that Joker plays upon, which I'll put a link to in the description box, just in case you want to get super deep with it and kind of political. In Gotham City, mentally troubled, aspiring comedian Arthur Fleck embarks on a downward spiral of bloody crime. This path brings him face to face with his infamous alter ego, the Joker. Joker is a gritty, morbidly beautiful journey with little comfort to spare, but a lot of messages to dissect. This is not a happy movie, nor was it aiming to be, clearly. But I do wonder if all the controversy around it is overblown by the media, and maybe in some regards, people thinking that it's trying to say something that maybe it actually isn't. Acting. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix gives a great performance. I think that's pretty obvious here. I know some people feel like maybe he chewed the scenery. He's like one of those method actors, those people who like embody the role kind of obnoxiously and never break character, which has got to be a nightmare to work on set with. Could you imagine someone being like Joker like all the time? Anyway, so yeah, I think he gave a really great performance that was nuanced, that had a lot of layers to it. I think the thing about the Arthur Fleck character, the original version of Joker before he becomes Joker, right? I think about this character is that you can't, with this journey, it's like 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. You can't from jump make him so that it's such an obvious tell that he's going to become the Joker. You kind of have to come on a journey with him, and I think that takes acting that allows for growth, that allows for evolution throughout, and I think he did a fine job in showing those layers. I think he did not try to make Arthur completely sympathetic, and I think that's key here, because I don't think it should be this idea that an actor goes into it and makes you want to feel sorry for this character that's going to become a supervillain, right, from the very onset, because I think that's emotionally manipulative almost, and not honest, because let's be real, he does turn into a villainous character. But I do think you have to have aspects where, as an actor, as someone portraying this character, that you believe that at least in the beginning they weren't such a, terrible person. Social commentary. All right, so in the published article that I referenced that's in the description box, I go a bit deeper into this, but I do want to touch on it here because I honestly believe that what I got from this film was that it was showing that we have a broken class system that creates its own monsters, that the Joker did not come from nowhere, that he didn't just become evil one day, that there was these issues of inequality, of social cuts, of being marginalized and oppressed that pushed him to a brink. Now, do I think that means that it's trying to say that all of us can be a Joker one day? Not at all. But I think what it does say is that there are people who are in positions of disadvantage, whether it be mental illness, whether it be poverty, whether it be abuse, all types of aspects, that it's not always a happy ending for those people. Some of those people don't turn that anger and that oppression into activism, which is the more proactive and more healthy version of it, wanting to fight for a better system, wanting to fight for a better day, having optimism. That's not what always happens. You do have people who turn to a life of crime. You do have people who do really crappy things because they think the world hates them and things of that nature. And so I think this movie was showing the aspect of that and showing that it doesn't come from nowhere, that there is inequalities and things like that that can really push people to their breaking point. Does that mean that it's optimistic for humanity? Not at all. I mean, this is not an optimistic message. Like I said, this is not a happy movie in the least, but I don't think it had to be. I think it was a telling, I think, of what this character can be symbolic of. That when there's a lack of real leadership, when there's a lack of humanity and empathy and unity, that in that vacuum, chaos and destruction can take hold, which is what we saw. I think there's a reason why this movie took place in the 1980s, which, dealt with like Reaganomics, the idea that we were coming out of really harsh and brutal political and economic times for many people. Like, poverty was rampant back then. I mean, just look at John Carpenter's They Live. That was an FU to Reaganomics during the 1980s because of what people were dealing with homelessness. And I think there's a reason why this movie takes place in Gotham City, which is, of course, a more extreme version of New York City, right? This major city, a lot of poverty going on. And I think it wasn't just because, it'd be cool to have a 1980s thing. I think because of the political context that it was in, and where a character like Joker could be symbolic of that breakdown of society that did actually occur during the real 1980s. He could have been any race, because really what defined him wasn't him being a white guy. It was him being poor. It was him being mentally ill. It was him feeling marginalized, feeling like he had no respect at his job, things like that defined him more than race. And I know there's controversy around that, like, because of a lot of time the profile of mass shooters is like white men and whatnot. But I didn't get that from this film. And I know that was one of the many controversies surrounding it. And I think this was more of a class social commentary than race social commentary, if that makes sense. But I think in this regard, what they were trying to do, or what I got out of it, was not necessarily, let's have a positive image of mental health, but let's show what happens in a system that does not value or try to protect or help people with mental health issues. And I don't think that's a condemnation of a mentally ill person. I think that's a condemnation of the system, which does not protect them. I got that more from out of this movie than the other. Lack of development for the women characters. Now, I know what you're going to say, that Arthur Fleck, Joker, was the only character that was completely fleshed out, that everyone else, as I had said just earlier, were pretty much pieces to his, jaded puzzle. With that said, though, I think that there was a missed opportunity, given that this was a reflection of the 1980s and the poverty issues. Women, and particularly women of color, were the face of poverty. When it came to, when I say the face, I mean they were the most vulnerable, right? They were the most affected when it came to poverty during the 1980s, and still today, to an extent. And I think it was a missed opportunity, because if you notice, there were a lot of women in his life that played roles in his life. And while they were there, and I totally appreciate the fact that Black women were very prominent in this film, I think they missed an opportunity to give at least one of them a chance to give a perspective, aside from like his psychiatrist from earlier, who basically told him what the system thinks about him and her, which I appreciated. But I think they missed an opportunity to go a little bit deeper into that. So that's my one issue when it comes to this film. Abuse, child abuse, mental health distress. So yes, I know Joker continues at the time of this taping to be a very controversial movie, a very polarizing movie, for a variety of reasons. And I honestly think this film is twisted approved. I think you need to experience this movie for yourself. I say that as a critic, right? And I'm not saying, I think you want to check in with people to see, maybe people you trust and whatever, to see what they think and their sensibilities, if it's similar. But I do think everyone, if you're curious about it, I should say, should check out the film for yourself, because I think you'll be surprised maybe what you take away from it. Because I know I was surprised in the things I took away from it that I didn't think I would. But then again, I opened myself up, to sit there and take in whatever messaging and story and journey that the creator of the film wanted to take me on. And I wasn't disappointed. So this is definitely Twisted approved. And honestly, my Twisted final grade is a solid A. Okay, y'all, so that is my review of Joker. My pros, cons, trigger warnings, and my Twisted final grade. What did you think? I know y'all got to have some opinions about this film. Please let me know. Comment down below. Do you agree with my pros and cons? Do you agree with, my thoughts about the social commentary? Do you think maybe, hey, this is just a comic book movie? Why are you reading so much into it? Why is anyone reading so much into this? And all that other jazz. Let me know. Comment down below. And also, be sure to subscribe. And also, press that bell so you get notifications when I post my new videos of all things horror and dark fantasy. Thanks for watching.